Imagine a restaurant that became the very definition of American flavor. Crowded tables, steaming plates of lobster and shrimp, and a promise of affordable luxury that seemed impossible to go wrong. For decades, Red Lobster was the pride of the American middle class, the place where families celebrated birthdays, couples toasted their achievements, and travelers got to taste the sea even hundreds of miles from the coast. But behind the smell of melted butter and the long lines at the door, there was a much more complicated story. A company that grew too fast, sold a dream that time couldn't sustain, and eventually became a victim of its own success.
What began as a dream to make seafood accessible to everyone ended in a spiral of debt, scandals, and disastrous decisions. Red Lobster was a beloved brand, but also a symbol of how America's appetite for growth can destroy even the brightest ideas. A chain that once promised prosperity was eaten alive from the inside, caught between ambitious executives, impatient investors, and a ruthless market. How did a brand that once ruled the entire country end up on the verge of bankruptcy? What really happened to the seafood giant that once seemed untouchable? Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because in this story, you'll discover how Red Lobster went from a feast to a collapse, and why its downfall reveals far more about the American economy than you might think.
It all began in 1968 in the small city of Lakeland, Florida, with a man named Bill Darden, who had already opened his first restaurant at the age of 19, back in 1938 in Georgia. A small place called the Green Frog, known for its simple motto, friendly service, and good food. The Green Frog became a local success and gave Darden a reputation as a skilled and innovative businessman. But there was one problem. Post-war Georgia's economy was weak, and the restaurant industry had limited room to grow. During the 1950s and 1960s, Florida experienced a population and tourism boom, retirees from the north, middle-class families, and the rapid growth of cities like Orlando, Tampa, and Miami. It was the new promised land of American hospitality. Darden realized Florida had a fast-growing market with year-round residents and tourists, direct access to fresh seafood, something that inspired him, and a business environment open to franchises and new restaurant concepts. He moved to Central Florida, where he met Charlie Woodsby, a local businessman with restaurant management experience. The two joined forces to create something new, an affordable, clean, modern, family-style seafood restaurant, the opposite of the rustic, old-fashioned fish shacks popular at the time. And so, in 1968, in Lakeland, the first Red Lobster was born. The restaurant was simple, but unlike anything people had seen before. Customers were amazed to find fresh lobster, shrimp, and crab served quickly and elegantly in a welcoming, family-friendly atmosphere. The combination of fair prices, good food, and warm service made the business take off.
Red Lobster quickly became a regional phenomenon. Within just 2 years, the chain had expanded to 5 locations across Florida, with plans for many more. Darden and his partner realized they had created more than a restaurant. They had created an American experience. Eating lobster, once considered an exclusive luxury, became a symbol of celebration for everyone. The brand's bold red logo and the irresistible smell of melted butter became part of America's collective memory. Red Lobster's rapid success soon caught the attention of major corporations. In 1970, General Mills saw the brand's potential and made an offer to acquire it. Darden and Woodsby knew Red Lobster was growing fast in Florida, but opening dozens or even hundreds of locations would require massive investment, something they couldn't sustain on their own. Faced with that reality, the partners decided to sell Red Lobster to General Mills. One of the terms of the deal required both of them to remain in the company's management as General Mills executives, allowing them to continue influencing the brand and ensuring it stayed true to its original concept. At the same time, the partnership provided financial security and access to enough capital for national expansion, without forcing them to take on excessive personal risk. And so, In 1970, General Mills became the owner of Red Lobster, while Bill Darden and Charlie Woodsby took on executive roles within the company, preserving the essence of the brand they had created. It was the beginning of a new era, with massive investments in marketing, logistics, and nationwide expansion. The small-town restaurant began to conquer the country. Suddenly, Red Lobster was everywhere, in shopping malls, along busy highways, and on television ads showing glistening lobsters dripping with golden butter. It was the height of American optimism, and dining at Red Lobster came to symbolize prosperity, family, and good times. Bill Darden and Charles Woodsby quickly became icons of 1970s entrepreneurship, inspiring an entire generation of business owners. They proved that a simple idea, offering good food with honesty, could capture the heart and appetite of an entire nation. However, despite the chain's massive success and their growing fame as executives, not everyone was completely satisfied. After 2 years in his executive role, Charles Woodsby decided it was time to step away and return to running his own business. Around 1972, he left both Red Lobster and General Mills. Within just a year, Woodsby was back in business in Lakeland, this time alongside his son. Together, they opened a restaurant that would be the first of several successful ventures in the years that followed. Meanwhile, Bill Darden remained at the helm of Red Lobster's expansion. During the 1980s and 1990s, the chain reached heights few franchises had ever achieved, becoming more than just a brand. It became a symbol of America's rising middle class. The country was living through an era of prosperity, and dining out was becoming a way of life, something Red Lobster captured perfectly. The advertising campaigns showed smiling families, friendly servers, and lobsters drenched in golden butter, accompanied by the unforgettable Cheddar Bay biscuits, which became legendary in their own right. The restaurant was presented as an affordable escape, a place where anyone could experience a taste of luxury. The expansion was meteoric. With every new opening, lines formed outside the doors. Red Lobster opened hundreds of locations across the country and quickly became the largest seafood restaurant chain in the United States. It was the golden age, full menus, secret recipes, and a loyal customer base that saw the brand as part of American culture itself. The success was so overwhelming that it inspired a new generation of casual dining chains, restaurants offering comfort and a touch of prestige without fine dining prices. And while many tried to imitate the formula, none could match Red Lobster's authentic flavor or undeniable charm. Growth was also fueled by bold innovations. The brand's marketing team invested heavily in catchy slogans and high-quality TV commercials, shot with cameras that highlighted every glistening drop of butter sliding over tender lobster meat. They weren't just selling food, they were selling an experience, a promise of affordable indulgence. Behind the scenes, General Mills celebrated record profits in 1982. Red Lobster had already become the most profitable division within the company, helping fund the creation of another promising chain, Olive Garden. The first Olive Garden opened in Orlando that same year, a concept envisioned by Bill Darden himself. The following year, in 1983, Bill Darden left General Mills to retire. Even after stepping down officially, he continued to serve as a consultant, staying closely involved with Red Lobster and the company's other brands. In 1990, General Mills decided to invest in a new concept, the China Coast restaurant, which unfortunately turned out to be a complete failure. Meanwhile, Red Lobster was at its peak. A brand that had started in a small town had now become part of the American cultural imagination. Dining at Red Lobster had become almost a ritual, a gesture that symbolized success, togetherness, and a small taste of the ocean for those living far from the coast. But like every high tide, the glow would not last forever.
Behind the scent of butter and the shine of golden lobsters, Red Lobster began facing an invisible enemy: time. What once represented affordable luxury was slowly turning into a nostalgic memory of a past that would never return. The American lifestyle was changing, and consumers began to seek faster, healthier, and more affordable meals, while Red Lobster clung to a model that no longer matched modern appetites. During that same decade, the chain lost its founding icon, Bill Darden. Even in retirement, he continued to consult for the brand, but after his passing in 1994, General Mills created a plan to reorganize its restaurant division. In 1995, in honor of the man who started it all, the division was spun off and renamed Darden Restaurants, carrying on his legacy and solidifying the company's presence in the American dining industry. The turn of the millennium brought a new wave of challenges for Red Lobster, and Darden Restaurants wasn't fully prepared to face them all.
Seafood costs skyrocketed, operational expenses climbed, and profit margins began to shrink rapidly. The once famous all-you-can-eat promotions, which had previously packed restaurants, started generating massive financial losses. Many customers came only for the unlimited deals, leaving the dining rooms full but the balance sheets deep in the red. Even so, Darden took a cautious approach. It avoided reckless expansion and chose instead to grow sustainably, keeping pace with the real market conditions. This prudent strategy allowed Red Lobster to regain stability. With more than 690 locations in operation, the chain managed to survive the 2008 recession with minimal damage, a rare feat during one of the most turbulent periods in United States economic history. By then, however, Red Lobster was no longer the pride of Darden Restaurants. The company had shifted its focus to Olive Garden, which was expanding rapidly and generating much higher profits. Amid growing tension among shareholders, Darden decided to part ways with Red Lobster in 2014. The chain was sold to the private equity firm Golden Gate Capital, which promised to modernize the brand, but what followed was a disaster. The renovations came alongside deep budget cuts and questionable decisions. One of the biggest missteps was the infamous Endless Shrimp Festival, an all-you-can-eat shrimp promotion that caused millions in losses and exposed the company's fragile finances. On social media, Red Lobster became the butt of jokes.
The restaurant that had once symbolized class and sophistication was now seen as overpriced, outdated, and directionless. The younger generations no longer saw in the brand the same sparkle it had in the 1990s. In 2016, the Thai seafood giant Thai Union, which had been Red Lobster's seafood supplier for more than 3 decades, purchased 25% of the company for about $575 million. But what seemed like a smart investment quickly became a burden. When the 2020 pandemic hit, dining rooms emptied, debts ballooned, and Golden Gate Capital decided to sell the remaining shares of the chain to Thai Union's shareholders. However, the deal turned out to be a costly mistake. Thai Union, though an expert in seafood processing, had no experience managing restaurant operations in the United States. Still, the company took control and launched an aggressive cost-cutting campaign. Employees were overworked, staff levels were slashed, classic menu items were removed, and longtime suppliers were replaced with cheaper alternatives. The results were devastating: a sharp decline in food quality, worsening customer service, and rising prices. Even after restaurants reopened post-pandemic, recovery never came. What followed was a wave of layoffs, store closures, and repeated, failed attempts at reinvention, the reflection of a brand that seemed to have completely lost its identity. By 2022, Red Lobster reported a $22 million loss, which directly impacted the financial results of its parent company, Thai Union. In an effort to reverse the crisis, Thai executives made a bold and disastrous decision. They turned the popular Endless Shrimp promotion into a permanent menu item. On paper, the idea looked promising. The promotion had always been a customer favorite, and it would also help reduce Thai Union's massive shrimp inventory. It seemed like a win-win situation. But in practice, it was the exact opposite. Customers took full advantage of the unlimited offer, and the cost of maintaining all-you-can-eat shrimp far exceeded every projection. Although the promotion increased traffic, it also generated new financial losses, with an $11 million deficit in 2023 alone. By the end of 2023, Red Lobster had accumulated $76 million in losses. Interest payments and legacy debts, many inherited from Golden Gate Capital's ownership, completely drained the company's cash reserves. The restaurants, expensive to maintain and increasingly unprofitable, had become an unsustainable burden. Most locations hadn't been renovated since 2014, and a turnover of 5 CEOs in just 2.5 years left the company directionless. With more than 70% of its payments overdue and almost no cash on hand, the situation became critical. On January 16, 2024, Thai Union announced its intention to sell Red Lobster. When no immediate buyers emerged, the company made a shocking move. On May 13, 2024, it abruptly closed 99 locations across the United States. Just days later, on May 20, 2024, Red Lobster officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, marking the financial collapse of one of America's most iconic seafood chains. Unlike a traditional bankruptcy, this process allowed the company to continue operating while reorganizing its debts and trying to regain financial stability. During this time, Red Lobster restaurants remained open, giving the company room to renegotiate contracts and sell assets, avoiding a total shutdown of the chain.
On June 14, 2024, reports surfaced that Fortress Investment Group, a major Wall Street investment firm co-founded by Wesley Edens, co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, had shown interest in rescuing Red Lobster from bankruptcy. Just a few days later, the news was confirmed. Fortress began shaping its acquisition and recovery plan, working alongside Thai Union to determine which regions and operations could be saved and revitalized. By August 25, 2024, under joint management from Thai Union and Fortress Investment Group, Red Lobster announced the closure of 23 more restaurants, all scheduled to shut down by August 31st. The following day, August 26th, Fortress requested that Thai Union appoint Damola Adamalekan as the new chief executive officer, tasking him with leading the restructuring process. Finally, on September 5, 2024, the court approved Red Lobster's bankruptcy plan, officially transferring ownership to Fortress Investment Group. With final court approval on September 16th, Red Lobster emerged from Chapter 11, ending its bankruptcy proceedings and entering a new chapter under its new investors. Today, Red Lobster operates around 544 restaurants across the United States and Canada, far fewer than the 700 locations it once had before the crisis. Many older units have been remodeled, the menu has been completely revamped, and the famous endless shrimp promotion has been replaced by more sustainable offers, allowing better cost control and avoiding past financial losses. Although Red Lobster is officially out of bankruptcy, the company still faces serious challenges: lingering debt, outbidded contracts, and the uphill task of winning back customer trust. The guest experience and service quality are now top priorities, but regaining market confidence will neither be quick nor easy. Visiting a Red Lobster today feels like stepping into a survivor from another era. The smell of melted butter and the golden-glowed lobsters still fill the air, but the atmosphere carries a heavier tone, that of a brand struggling not to vanish. Once a proud symbol of prosperity and national pride, Red Lobster now faces its greatest challenge yet: staying relevant in a world that has completely changed. After years of accumulated losses, poor contracts, and disastrous strategic decisions, the company took a massive hit, especially for the thousands of employees who saw their stores close overnight. Yet the brand refuses to die. There's a clear attempt at reinvention, with simplified menus, cost-cutting measures, and new efforts to reconnect with a customer base that feels increasingly distant. Even in its weakened state, Red Lobster still holds immense symbolic power. For many Americans, it represents childhood memories, family celebrations, and the taste of affordable success. That's why the news of its crisis struck such a deep chord. Red Lobster is part of the cultural identity of the United States, a piece of collective nostalgia surviving in a country that never stops changing. But this fight for survival reveals something deeper. It exposes the fragility of a business model once thought to be eternal. The company that once democratized luxury is now struggling to stay afloat in a world ruled by fast food chains and delivery apps. The American dream shows its cruel side again. Growing is easy. Staying relevant is the real challenge. Even if Red Lobster's future remains uncertain, one thing time cannot erase is what it represents. The brand has become a mirror of America itself, ambitious, resilient, and stubbornly unwilling to give up. And the question remains, will Red Lobster manage to reinvent itself, or will the sea of the market finally swallow it whole? If you want to keep discovering stories of companies that face dramatic crises, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.